Still all to play for in the second leg. I know it's disappointing to lose 1-0, but I think with these type of games, and obviously we aren't quite used to them, particularly away from home in Europe in a knockout tie, we've got to try and keep some perspective in it. I think there were some negatives of tonight, and I think it comes down to decision making in the final third and being clinical. We'll talk about that. But I think there were a lot of positives, and the first half was really, really impressive. West Ham. I thought the game plan was really good. I mean, Sevilla have obviously got a lot of dangerous players, but the way that they play, they get their number eights really in between the spaces. They get them beyond. I think they were trying to catch out our fullbacks at points. They were dropping deep and then they were hitting switch passes and getting in beyond. But I thought we adapted to that. I thought Ben Johnson did really well tonight, generally defensively. It was very difficult, I think, for West Ham, or it would have been easy for West Ham to have got, particularly with the back four, pulled out of shape and spaces to appear. On occasion, they did because of the overload and the pressure that Sevilla put on us. But by and large, I like the way that we set up. It was essentially a 4-1-4-1. It felt like Fornals and Vlasic were coming in central in transition. That was causing Sevilla real big problems. I think Antonio's role in terms of hold-up play was better than I think we've seen probably for the past 2 months or so. Him inviting Vlasic and Fornals into play, and Fornals, particularly first half on that left-hand side, having the freedom to come central, it meant that when West Ham had the opportunity and Sevilla were out of shape, that we had the bodies forward. Souček was allowed to get further forward with Declan playing a more conventional number 6. And you'd say that in possession, or at least in transition, we were hurting Sevilla. We were creating chances. We were committing men forward. And it looked like maybe we could get something. The first 1v1 with Antonio and their centre-back, he puts it into the side netting. Better decision-making there. Maybe we have another chance on goal. I think it led up to the set piece where I felt West Ham grew into the game. I thought we started to look calmer in possession. The build-up generally, and the game felt like, albeit slightly end-to-end at times with our opportunities and theirs. When we had ours, we were comfortable in possession. I think that was a really encouraging sign. The set piece, he has to score that, Vlasic. He really does. It's a free header. It's straight at the goalkeeper. And you have to take your opportunities when they present themselves. And West Ham fashioned a fair few tonight. I thought Antonio could have possibly have done better with the follow-up. The only thing I would excuse is maybe the distance, the fact that the defender was already there. But Vlasic has to be scoring for me. Or he at least has to make it hard for the keeper to save it and put it either side. And if you do that, you say that West Ham go into the second half and feel, okay, we didn't dominate possession. We knew what we were playing up against. At the same time, we managed to get something and we can hopefully build on that and contain that. Second half was a different ball game. And I think partly where West Ham had been really positive out of possession, playing slightly further up, I think Deck's position allowed Lanzini and Souček to play further up, played very narrow. We tried to force Sevilla into wider areas. We didn't try and allow them to play through us, particularly in that middle third. But the reality was I felt that we were a little bit too deep second half. I think maybe we thought that was the correct decision to contain Sevilla. However, I feel that it did allow them to get their fullbacks further forward. They overloaded. Again, they were creating chances. Whilst I think while you're playing that 4-5-1, you're stopping those centre midfielders, those eights getting into those central positions. At the same time, you're inviting pressure upon pressure. And the set piece is so disappointing because I would have said that's probably our strength, defending set pieces and obviously being an offensive threat. But the fact that their man Mooney has got so much space, and I don't really know what to account for it, to be honest. I think we play zonal marking. I just can't understand how he has that much space and how we've been caught out. Okay, fair enough. It's a predictable free kick from Sevilla. They've planned that on the training ground. But equally, the fact that West Ham was so deep and there was not a player within 5 yards of him was really disappointing and discouraging, because when you look generally at Sevilla's threats, whether it was a switch pass to a Campos, whether it was the eights playing in the pockets, whether it was En-Nesyri and his movement and his early movement in the air, by and large, I felt that West Ham restricted Sevilla to chances outside of the box. So to concede from a set piece was disappointing. I think as well, when West Ham in possession, when we dropped deeper, I think there was a lack of quality at times. And I think Pablo, unfortunately, whilst I've praised him and whilst I said in the preview he'd make the difference, in transition, he's losing the ball way too often. I think there was a few, I think Souček as well. When you're under that amount of pressure and you're that deep, not being able to retain the ball is a big problem. It's a big problem. And whilst I kind of felt in the early stages of the second half, this game's going to open up, West Ham are going to counter, we're going to commit men forward, it felt as if because of the the difference in dynamic of the game, the way that Sevilla dominate possession, the way that Spanish teams play, I don't think you can really afford to do that, to sit deep against them, because they're incisive with their passing. Because I think Lopetegui changed it a couple of times and they were able to either play wide and overload in those areas when we were out of shape, or they were able to play central and they were finding these horrible pockets, particularly when we lose the ball consistently. The game changer for me was probably, and I say game changer, I know we lost, but tactically and personnel wise, I thought Benrahma when he came on was fantastic. I think that there are two parts to this. A, he was able when he had the freedom to come central and pick up the ball. But B, what was more important for me was his ball retention. I think his directness on that right-hand side, particularly for the chance that he fashioned for Manu Lanzini. That's what we need to really see from Benrahma. I think him on the ball, being more decisive, being aggressive. I looked at Sevilla in the first half and I thought the way that they're trying to go man for man in that midfield, if they go on Benrahma and he's able to get a turn on them, similar to the way that Vlasic was able to use his strength, we're going to create space here. And it worked for 10 minutes. Now, I think it also had a lot to do with the fact that we decided to play slightly further up. I think Deck became that number 6, dropping between the two centre-backs, and we managed to get Johnson and Creswell further forward when we had a chance. That was important. That was really, really important, because there's no doubt that for 20, 25 minutes, we were so far under the cosh, it did look like they were going to get an opportunity to score again. And when you've got players like En-Nesyri, Campos, you can't afford to sit that deep. And we weren't effective enough from deep areas. So it proved to be a good tactical switch. And albeit, listen, I think it's tough. We're never, like I always say, we're never really going to engage high with our centre-backs, in truth, in midfield areas. So we're always going to drop back, and we're always going to have times where we are very deep in 4-5-1. But I think just that opportunity to get players forward when we had it, we were able to create some chances. Souček early in the second half. Obviously, we know about Lanzini in the block from Navas. We are getting chances. We are creating. It's just we're not taking. And I think the problem for me is not necessarily in the game plan, because whilst we shouldn't have dropped deep, I think if you look at the full 90 minutes, West Ham were able to commit 5 bodies forward at times, get fullbacks further forward. It's our decision making, and it's the quality of chance creation as well. And even when you've got the quality, and Lanzini's got a chance and he's made the run, Vlasic as well, we've got to be testing the keeper. And I think in games like this, where they're on a knife edge and you're against a team that dominate possession, and it's not just that, in fairness, people have brought it up. Southampton, Liverpool, it's exactly the same premise. So we do definitely have to improve in that sense. And going into the second leg, I really hope we do. The main thing was West Ham. Once we went 1-0 down, and when it looked like Sevilla were going to score another, that we kept it to 1-0. I know people don't like the mindset, but in truth, it's 180 minutes, not a 90-minute game in this sense. And I think West Ham just keeping a little bit of resilience, just changing the momentum slightly for 10, 15 minutes to take the pressure off was important. Now, I think the big difference in the next tie is Jarrod Bowen if he's fit. I really, really do. If they're going to press 1v1, and Bowen's going to come central, and Fornals is possibly going to play. Maybe you play Benrahma. Granted, we've got to go for it a little bit and get the goals. Then I think we've got real opportunities there. But it is very, very tough. They are a very good team. And it was probably easy to come into it and be generalised and say, well, they've won it 4 times. I didn't realise how difficult they would be to play. So I think whilst it's not the result that we wanted, and it was a disappointing goal to concede, I think the fact we're still in it, the fact that we had moments, the fact that we've shown that we can create chances against this team means that the next step is for West Ham to be clinical. And listen, fingers crossed that we do it. But I'm not too downtrodden. I think we'll come back. I'm glad that we're going to London Stadium. There's 60,000 fans in there. We can get behind them and hopefully get something there. It's not out of sight. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section about that game, the key incidences. Our poor decision making and not really being clinical at the minute is frustrating. Drop a like on the video if you do enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the West Ham Way Patreon account and check out the West Ham Way website as well in the description below. I will return for a preview for Aston Villa. That is on Sunday. It'll be interesting to see how we play and even who we play, given the magnitude of the tie. But until then, take care.